Such a pleasure to have all of you here in such a wonderful time we are expecting to have together. And first of all, let me introduce that my name is Shashir Sharma. I work for a company called Space Matrix, and as a civil engineer, have been having experience of more than 2 decades now in this field. And I would like all of you to please introduce yourself, and then we get into such a friendly discussion afterwards. So, from your side.
My name is Abhi, and I lead Unispace for India, and looking forward for a wonderful conversation with all friends.
Hi, I'm Fancy George. I lead Workplace for Thomas Workplace Design. I consider myself a global citizen, and honestly, I think there is a lot that we can even converse right now to help impact change in some way. So hoping that you guys can get something out of this.
My name is Nirbhig. I work with Savills, looking after their project management business in the southern part of the country. Studied design and practicing project management. Worked across the country, across the globe, and happy to bring my thoughts to the table.
Hi, my name is Sai Krishna. I work with Moser as an architect, and I lead a small design team. And I'm really looking forward to interact with you all. Thank you.
To be Sai, wonderful to have all of you here, and Nirbhig, you are new here, so welcome to Bangalore, and I'm sure that you have such a wonderful time here together, because not only because of weather, because you're coming from Delhi, which is 50 degrees centigrade right now, and Bangalore is 22 degrees, so you're going to have a wonderful time. And we look forward to such interesting discussion, and as Fancy said, that we should try to bring out some kind of a sense to the whole confusions which is around COVID. So before that, we are trying to figure out what is the holistic approach to the well-being in the offices. That's what we're trying to bring out. And just to give the context to it, I would like to bring out some data points here. It was not COVID which made people to resign, which is now known as a great resignation. Even before COVID, 2018, ADPI Research Institute in US did the study where they brought in the resilience is 17%. People were only geared towards it. Engagement was only 18%, and COVID only did 2% lower than that. So when I say that the COVID, most of people blame it to COVID, that the whole resignation part happened, it is only 2%. It probably is the last on the camel's back, which helped to the last report from US is 25% of the employees in US resigned. So do you think the COVID has created a kind of environment for people not to work or not to come back to office or just resign? So is that a right choice of resigning or just being with the family? What do you think? Is it right choice?
Yeah, I mean, there is no right or wrong, or there is no one size fits all. I think when we say work-life balance, it's actually a relationship between your work life, your social life, and then your home life. So how much time you're spending between these 3 circles, how we can have a common thread and coexist between these circles is where you're getting the best out of it. So now if I have a choice, I reassessed my priorities. Because of COVID, I'm working at home, I have more time to spend with my family, and now I'm making probably a better choice because I've got a new company, a new offer. Then I believe that I can spend more time with my children or my old parents. Then that becomes the right choice for that individual. Probably this is what driving them.
So, Nirbhig, do you agree to this?
Yes, to a great extent. I think it gave us time to think about the choices we've made. When you don't have time, you pretty much stick to your routine, and you don't have time to step back and reevaluate. But COVID gave us that time. It gave us choices. It helped us find new hobbies. It helped us bring out old hobbies. It helped us find balance between work and family. And that has forced everyone to relook at the choices they want to make in life. That in turn has led to the resignation, because now people are looking out for opportunities which probably geographically work better for them, time-wise work better for them, and most importantly, gets you that work-life balance.
Okay.
Because in India, for most professionals, their profession defines them.
Mhm.
It's not them as an individual. Right now, I think it's kind of getting balanced out.
So you bring out the other hidden talents or the passions that you had, and that you brought it, the COVID brought that out to give you a work-life balance. So you think, Fancy, that is the case because of the time we had enough to explore and we become a better person? What do you think?
Suddenly, like, people started realizing, oh, I'm a decent cook, and nutrition is very important. I need to take care of myself first. I know. I remember like going down 100 feet road here. I had never looked out of the window to look. We were always so busy looking at our phones and this and that. And suddenly during that time, you have time to walk and you actually, oh, this store actually exists out. There's a tree in front of my house. Suddenly you're noticing things which were like always there, but just so like, blinders, and then looking at what you're doing that you were not giving yourself that time. Suddenly with this, you suddenly realize you need self-care is important. If you don't take care of yourself, it's just like how in the airplane, they say, put on your life vest first and then take care of your child. Because if you don't take care of yourself first, both of you are going to go some other way. You need self-care first. So I think that's what happened.
So, but do you think the self-care will go to such an extent that the people stopped coming back to office? Nobody is returning to office now.
Yeah,
So do you think that that's a kind of a disjointed or disbalanced kind of thing? People are not coming to office.
Along with self-care was a realization that you need better workplaces. You need a choice of work. You need like a choice of a lot of different functions, and then also the fact that people are different. I think you brought it up, Nirvik. I mean, you have the introverts, you have the extroverts. It's a neurodiverse workforce. Out of your neurodiverse workforce, of all of your workforce, there is 2% who's disabled. But you actually don't know what the disability is because a lot of it is invisible. There's mental health, there's mental wellness that has to be taken into consideration.
So, Fancy, before I go into the well-being part of it and how do we define it,
Yeah.
Sai, what do you think? Why people are not coming back to office?
Yeah, so like earlier, we call boring workspace or like generic workspaces. Now that, and when people gone back to the homes during the lockdowns and they realized, okay, they can work from anywhere. They can work from their dining tables, they can work from their living rooms, they can on their beds. So earlier we used to struggle to tell people, okay, this is nice bar stool table, you sit on that and work, you will be more efficient. But they didn't realize, but they realized when they were doing the same thing at home. So now they know, okay, you don't need to go back to office to do this. You can do this at any place. And they were finding the places, different places to work. So like people maybe during the lockdown, there was offers by resort, you work from the resorts, right? So it's like, so that's where like people found this alternate ways of working and all. And now they don't see, okay, there is a need to go back to the office to do the same work, which they can do it more efficiently from different locations.
More efficiently, very interesting concept what just Sai brought in. And I remember when the first lockdown happened and everyone was productive. Yeah. I personally believe they were productive not because that they were working very comfortably in their house. They were scared of losing the job. And that's what happened, and everybody wanted to prove they are still relevant, right? And now the second lockdown and the second wave, third wave, the productivity part, I don't agree to it that you can't be productive in office or you can only be productive in the house. Probably the time difference, traveling time, and as you mentioned, that the social environment what you get into was more helpful. So do you think, Abby, that the productivity is not related to office? Do you agree to that?
Yes and no. I would say, what work one individual is doing that particular time, they should have the choice to choose their workplace. Maybe it's a work setting, or where they work from, maybe home. So fundamentally, after this pandemic, I think probably everybody would agree the way we work has changed dramatically.
Absolutely.
From Gen X to Gen Z, everybody now can work from anywhere. Probably that was a privilege given to coding engineers or someone who is extremely software savvy before the pandemic. Now, if you see teachers, go out of the corporate occupier, the teachers are doing Zoom calls with their children. So, overnight, everything has changed, and people have realized how from anywhere they can work. Now it's all about making their choices. So someone may be more productive if I'm doing individual work, focused and writing the code. I may be more productive at my home on my own desk. But if I'm solving a problem, especially if you look at a Gen Z person who is studied in universities, working side by side, they are solving a problem. They may be more productive when they come back to work and lean over to the desk with their colleague and solve that problem. So it clearly depends upon what exactly you're after, and then that's how you.
I think the nature of work,
Nature of work.
because not every day that you do run the same routine.
Exactly.
One day you could be reviewing a drawing, the other day you could be reviewing an agreement, the other day you could be resolving a conflict, right? And the workspace should allow for different modes, and that would probably make people more comfortable. If you're trying to push people to follow a generic format, generic work desk, same routine every day, there's going to be resistance.
So Vivek, it's very nice that you brought that up, because I'm going to ask Fancy now. Do you think that design can provide different type of workspaces for the people to come back to office? Is design good enough for the people's mental health, well-being, and also to cater to their all requirements? Does design help?
So this is where I'm coming to this neurodiverse workforce I'm talking about, right? So for the longest of times, like you mentioned, generic, boring, and all of that stuff was there, right? So now what happens with the neurodiverse workforce who wants to come back to the office is that we need to try and provide for them different choice of workplaces. So there are people who like their privacy. There are introverts, there are extroverts. I'm an introvert and an extrovert. I would like to have an open workplace to work at, and also some place where I can go and take a call or have meetings, right? So that choice is what the key is, I think, at this point. So you call it activity-based work. I think about 10 years back, Macquarie Bank, one of the earlier banks, experimented with that to some extent. Everybody was given just go a la carte, go and pick what you want. They did not get the sign workspace. They were acting like an assistant workspace. The CEO of the company had to come in and book his place on the laptop. It was unheard of. Like, you were really off an app and then you pick a place to go sit at. But we've been talking about it, and it took 10 years for it to come to this, when suddenly we are sitting here and thinking, rethinking, reimagining what should we do, what's the kind of place that's going to attract talent. Do you know that creativity, like we're talking about this, right? You're talking productivity went up, but creativity is something that we need to start questioning right now, because apparently the number of patents worldwide, that was given for submission has come down. Productivity may have gone up, and I know you're saying you have a different thought to that. But that's something you need to address, because until and unless you're giving or designing for that kind of atmosphere, you're not going to get that output.
So Fancy, I do agree to that the creativity is a different ball game altogether in terms compared to the productivity part of it. And as Satya Nadella said, that the COVID has actually transformed the way the digital transformation happened in such a way that most of us are now ready to have any structural change in organization. We are very comfortable, on the Zoom calls. We are very comfortable in team meetings. We are wearing pajamas below and a suit on top, creating those kind of things. But the digital transformation alone will not be able to help the creativity part, right?
Yeah.
So for people to do that, they have to specifically come back to office.
Yes.
And that is what I am seeing, and a lot of people are discussing. We have got so many of our friends here, real estate people, they're waiting for people to come back. It is not about the Zoom calls, team calls. It is all, I personally believe, is culture, because that has not happened. And the moment you come to office, meet certain people together, you get to know the person as a person and team. So culture, I feel, is one of those parts, and for that at least you have to come back to office, right?
Yes,
Maybe?
So I have like two big pain points with regard to Zoom and team calls.
Oh God, I was mad to hear that.
One is that time gets calculated in blocks of half an hour, 1 hour. Those same conversations can happen in much lesser time.
Yeah, face to face.
All you need to do is walk up to somebody's desk, tap on the shoulder, have that quick conversation, you're done.
Agree.
So I feel we're like allocating more time, and we're trying to consume the time we've then allocated in order to justify our own decision to begin with. So that's been one of my pain points. Second is when it comes to dispute resolution, I find being in the room, or why dispute resolution, even on design meetings or any where you want to see the person's body language, you want to see their expression, you don't know what's behind the camera,
Energies.
right? You need to see that. Correct. You need to see if my idea of my statement hit the bullseye. You can't do that on Zoom.
That
Do a
reminds-
design presentation in a room full of people, watching everybody's expression, and you get even more animated.
Yeah.
Do it on a Zoom call.
So that
You
reminds-
know,
No idea
you
what's going on
talk,
behind me.
you talk for a long time, and then you hear the person say,
I can't hear what you said. Your
or
camera is off.
I hope
can't
I'm being
see.
audible.
and memory is full.
Oh, you bet. Oh,
we all had that conversation you're on mute.
You're
So
on mute.
let me give you a very interesting thought on this, and
Yeah.
Vivek, I mostly agree with you. The Zoom calls. There is a research, and there is a research that the lag of people's reaction creates an inborn bias in human beings. So if I'm talking and you're not smiling about it, I will have judged you. This guy is not listening to me. And the second very important aspect is in the Zoom call. So this kind of research I have read, that the face-to-face meeting, lack of face-to-face meeting creates a craving in your mind, just like hunger. It's actually a physical thing. And that's why people need to come back to office. Let me go back again to that question, why they are not coming back to office. Any new idea you have, Fancy, on this?
They're not coming back because, see, that again, you can put it into buckets.
Mhm.
I guess the people who are coming back know what their workplace and choice offering of workplaces are. The ones who are not coming back is probably like tired of those rows and rows of workplaces that have been the thing to do over the past, 20 years or so. There's so many workplaces that's 20 years old. There's no change. And now people are getting up and demanding that kind of a change. They need choice. I mean, that's what I was telling you earlier. You need that choice now. You cannot stick to what was there 15 years back, and you can do it sustainably.
So
That's
would it be
another topic
correct
to talk
if I say that we're moving from a matrix of X number of square feet per person to quality of work environment?
Absolutely.
I mean,
Because-
And that's what's happening right
That's
now.
the biggest thing, because people are not,
Yeah.
all big occupiers, if you look at, they really don't need to look at number of people they are accommodating, but actually people are coming back to feel that they are looking at workspace as a social anchor
Mhm.
than a place to work. The place to work can happen from anywhere. That's established.
Mhm.
Now, what they're coming back to office for, being part of the tribe,
Mhm.
I want to understand the culture of the company from a new employee. The training is missed. I mean, there's always a gap between the real training, side-by-side training versus a Zoom call training. So feeling feeling connecting to the tribe, as a social anchor, they are coming back. So that makes the biggest challenge for all of us sitting here as industry colleagues to make that office or workspace more inspiring, always fostering, helping these employees to make that social connections and supporting them, creating a space to, conducive for innovation.
Because now it's no longer 80 square feet
Yeah.
per person or anything like that. It's more about choice of work,
Mhm.
and also you're talking much more, like 110, 120 square feet, that's fine.
And you can afford it now.
And yeah, absolutely. Like and then of course, because of the fact that you're talking 4-day weeks, 3-day weeks, and all of that stuff, you're able to rotate the staff and have a much better office for the same number of people.
So
Abhi touched an interesting topic which I've heard clients bring up over and over again. They never stopped hiring
Correct.
during COVID. So yes, there were resignations, but they were not sitting back home. They probably moved to another job. And I have had clients who've hired as much as 20-25% of their pre-COVID headcount. Now, their problem is my employees do not know what the organization looks like, what their office looks like. There is no way of being connected. I need to somehow bring them, show them the space and tell them about this culture.
So, it's very interesting. I think in our discussion, we have probably, brought this out that the productivity is not office thing. It can happen anywhere. So, what I personally believe now is only two things will happen in offices, which I have been actually quite vocal about it. One is the complex design decision making, which needs a lot of the executives and the people to come together and discuss that. And nowadays we are talking in terms of AI and all those kind of things. They have to come together for that. The second thing which they have to come back to office is for the training. And the third thing is getting to be the part of tribe, as you said. So these things, so productivity is off. But before I get into this discussion, I would like to ask, what do you feel is holistic well-being? How do you define that? And I leave it to Fancy to answer this question. As a designer, you are the right person.
How happy can you get? What brings happiness to you when you get into that? What is it that makes you happy? I think freedom of choice. Honestly, freedom of choice. And just honestly also being the leader and taking charge. The micromanagement of 10 years back is probably the other reason probably people were getting really frustrated. But the minute you make everybody a leader and have them take charge of their work, you should see how they blossom and, that's happiness for you. Freedom of choice and just being their own person, just let them be to do their work. At the end of the day, I think that is honestly key, if you ask me.
What do you think, Sai?
So, yes, and I think we need to look at it. Who are the people who are coming back to the office now? So those are all the young, new joining people who are coming back. They want to go to the office because they had not seen the office, how it feels, how the experience is there, and they want to come to the office. And those are the people also, when they are coming to office, they are posting on the social media about their offices and all. That is also making us change the way we design the office spaces. We have to, as wellness and neurodiversity, so it's also connected with the multi-sensory experience that an office space gives. Because people had that while they working in home and all, the breeze that they get it from their balconies and fresh flower scents. So all that has also made them feel happy about what they are doing, where they are, and how they want to work about it. So it's not about always having a very comfortable chair to sit and very ergonomic and comfortable to sit chair and work, but also other experiences that they get it from the office space.
I think Sai brought a very interesting
Absolutely.
point of providing experience. So now that's an opportunity for employers. Right? If an employee works like 3 days at home and they are choosing only to come to 2 days to the office, that's a window. So now the workplace design is moving slightly to retail. So how in that limited time you're able to foster that connectivity to the larger culture of organization? How do we, ensure that there is trust? All that. So it is a small window for all employers to give them that experience. So it's mostly going towards experiential design.
So basically, Abhi, you are saying that the holistic workplace and well-being is all about specific to a certain people, individuals, not to the whole employee gamut, right? So individually, you want to do individual stuff for each one of them.
Absolutely,
right?
Absolutely. I mean, what you give as a standard, and probably someone asked what is well-being before the pandemic, they would have said you need to make sure that you have correct level of oxygen, you have water cooler spaces across the workstation. Nobody will talk about now. That's all given. Now, for beyond that, what could you give as an experience to a visitor or an executive who is coming only to negotiate a deal, or an employee who is coming to connect back to his tribe? What's the experience you can provide? So the design of workspace need to cater to that.
So it's not the designer alone, by the way. When you're talking holistic, it's the project manager, the designer,
Absolutely.
the facility manager, the decision makers. Pretty much everybody has to be break down the silos and get everybody together to do it.
So interestingly,
belonging. You know about gender inclusion, diversity, inclusion, and belonging. So right. Diversity is like a very diverse workforce. Inclusion is being asked to speak up, and then belonging is actually being listened to.
So this belonging part, I want to touch upon that belonging part, because the recent article in Harvard Business Review
That's a beautiful book.
is talking about bringing love back to the
Love
workplaces.
back to the workplace. It's exactly that.
And that was
Exactly
an amazing thought process. And having said that, it does not mean that you go and fall in love with a colleague.
No.
Falling in love with the whole workplace is more required. But very interesting in that article, what they said, loving your work, what you do, whether you enjoy it or not,
Passion.
whether you are in touch with the kind of work you're doing, whether you feel that this work is meaningful for the society in general, beyond 20% it does not work. You only have to, the executive should only focus on give a person enough so that he starts enjoying and loving his work up to only 20%. Beyond that, it does not go into exponential
Again, self-care.
returns.
Again, it's self-care, self-love, and all of that.
Do you think love is required?
Absolutely, because that bond, that connect, that glue is what keeps us together. If that glue is not there, we kind of
Split
apart and we get segregated, and that is what's required to hold us together. For me, as a leader, performance is more important. For me, I don't need to see people on chairs as long as they're doing work. But there are exceptions. Certain work has to happen in a group. Certain discussions got to be in person. So I don't think there is one solution one can say that, this solution works for everybody. It probably works for 80%. But as an organization, you've got to make that 20% feel at home.
Wonderful.
And that 20% is what will get the magic back at
But
workplace.
you kind of pushed it towards the productivity again. And what I'm saying is,
See, if there is trust, he mentioned trust.
Okay.
If there is trust,
you
performance
also
will
mentioned
happen.
belongingness.
Absolutely.
Okay, so the trust, belongingness, and engagement. And if you're doing all that, basically you're in love with the work. And that's what the people will come back to office for that, not for productivity. So when we say productivity, and most of the organization, which is the billion-dollar companies, they are only look at the top line, bottom line, and the profits, right? So if that is the case, and that can only be happening from the productive part, do we need offices? And this is to all four of you. Do we need offices for profits, companies' growth? Do we need that?
You just spoke about it, right, Shashi? The fact that you need to have people to feel the energy and get creative and brainstorm. So of course you need an office. You need the office. You need to be able to design for that kind of a workplace for people to come together. And it's not just and you can be productive anywhere else. And so we spoke about creativity. Your creative levels come down when you're sitting in silos somewhere away from all of that energy.
So you need to say all those firms which are kind of gear up towards the creativity, innovations, doing something new like Apple or something, when they're doing, only those people will benefit from this, the kind of design you do.
Because I think every job function has some creative element to it.
Yes.
So you need to come together.
So
at
only
some
those
time.
people, right?
It's not
10%
only,
of them.
right? So every function will require some amount of creativity at the end.
So Eddie, let me put you on the corner here. If it is only about productivity or coming together, do we need such large offices? Why don't we change the whole it turned on its own axis, and you said that just let's have a small offices with the hub and spoke model. All these large IT parks, will they be there next 5 years or 10 years down the line?
I think definitely yes. Office spaces are going to stay.
Mhm.
It's only the how we're looking at it, as Fancy said earlier, the rows and rows of workstations, that is going to go away, at least to a large extent. We will still have, engineers who need 5 monitors and several servers hooked onto them. Can they do it from home? Absolutely not. They still need workspaces. They need larger team coming together. But the type of work, a lot of work, repetitive works, what they could do in isolation, that could move away. And I wish all the occupiers, all the large companies will start questions what Shashi just asked. Do we really need this big space, or we need much better spaces, maybe smaller but much engaging, a space that fosters creativity and connection to the values that company stands for, a place where people can come and belong.
So I'll give you an example. So these questions were on the table, and we asked the client, which way do you want to go, left or right? He said, I don't know. I don't know how this thing's going to evolve. We were planning a long-term solution, but I really don't know. So let's do one thing. Let's do a short to medium term solution.
Mhm.
Let's get past this 2-3 year period, and then we can work on a long-term plan. So their new workspace,
Mhm.
and I'm over here, I'm going to do a little bit of marketing for HNI.
Mhm.
Their new workspace kind of looks like this. It has some workstations, it's got some phone pods, it's got some lounge furniture, it's got some high tables, and it's got some cozy seating like this.
Choice.
And they have given their employees the choice that, some of you may be happy working at home. We are all right for you to work from anywhere, as long as your manager agrees, there's significant overlap with your other colleagues, etc., etc. But here is the space where you can come and utilize for collaboration, and it is working well.
What do you think, Sai?
Yes, office is gonna stay, and only thing is the way we look at them will be changing it, because people are, we are all social people. We just have to see each other's face to just feel that connection of, okay, as we say, talked about productivity will increase if people believes it, or trust. But the trust, all that has to come then only when people see each other, they socialize with each other. Otherwise, it's not gonna come. So that's where they have to come to office. If that doesn't mean that we are just creating the spaces for just to people to interact or socialize or collab. But when they come and they interact, they will realize that, okay, they have to come here again and again. And that's where the offices are gonna stay and build a new culture where the people will come to office for a different purpose.
So, since all of you agree that the offices are going to be there,
Yeah,
so
I have something to add.
okay, please go ahead.
I don't think any of us know what's going to happen.
Yeah, there is an
There is
element of
a
uncertainty.
huge, big, yeah, exactly. Everybody's experimenting, and you touched upon it then. Because it's now actually a little bit of a phase of
We're in transition
experiment.
phase.
It's transition, and that's absolutely a valid point. Because right now, for the next 2 to 3 years, we will try all sorts of things. But how best can you make it modular and flexible? Because 3 or 4 years from now, you don't want to be throwing things away, but you want to be readjusting it based on the need.
But Fancy, this is very disheartening for me to hear from all of you, because you are the thought leaders of the industry.
Oh,
And actually,
no.
you guys should be knowing it, right?
Shashi,
And-
that's where I will beg to differ.
Okay.
Again, it's not the designer alone. It's breaking down silos to get all the thought leaders together.
Mhm.
It's a HR.
Mhm.
It's your IT specialist. It's your AV guy. It's your facility managers. It's your leaders of the organization. It's the stakeholders. Everybody has to get together. The architect is not going to decide what your work is.
Okay,
gonna be
agreed.
like.
Agreed
It's
to
got to
that.
be a table filled
There should
with
be buy-in from
experts.
everybody.
Exactly,
So-
and that is what's going to
I
decide.
agree to that in the sense that it is not only the designer. And when
Yeah.
I said that all of you project
We
managers,
have a lot of
especially-
ideas, you know
so
that.
everybody's there. Come on, 2.5 years we are into this. And we have been thinking from the very beginning to now, and 2.5 years is good enough time
Do you know how we've
to
changed?
decide
You
at
start
least where
2
we're
years
going.
back. 2 years back, we were saying the office is gone away. 1 year down, we are saying, oh, the office is coming back. And now we are saying, oh, the office is like going to be like.
But
a
we
hybrid.
should have
So
something
it's
as a
how
roadmap
choice.
for that,
Yeah,
Abhi.
yes.
I think the roadmap is choice.
Yeah.
Anybody
Choice.
That's what
who
we're
works-
saying, choice.
Anybody who works
Make it
with
choice.
large
Choice.
footprint,
Yeah.
someone who's going to grow, someone who's sure about hiring more people, has a roadmap. And as individuals, as professional advisors, we could always help them. There is no one size fit for all.
Correct.
What you could work with is the kit of parts.
Kit of parts.
What are the certain type of work settings you need, but make it as flexible as possible. We don't have crystal ball. We don't know what's going to happen
Correct.
in next 5 years, but as flexible as it and cater to their requirement, and then we move along.
But
with that.
then you see, maybe what's happening here, that we have got builders who have got 29 million square feet of office and residential space being created. The Bangalore rentals have not gone down. If this nobody knew why these big people are investing in offices, that means that they have certain thoughts which we are trying to figure out here, that where they are going and how we are able to be there at next 5 years.
I think we're talking about some sort of a renewable kind of, something that's regenerative, right? In terms of like the choice of workplace, regenerative, choice of work, consolidation. So making sure that so the corporate office is going to be a consolidation, and of course your hub and spoke will also happen, which is going to be offices pretty much distributed, which are like centers where people get to. That's your
totally
hybrid.
sense, because one of the
So-
So we
On the real,
maybe that's the solution to that.
on the real estate side, I'll give you two examples where the kind of thought process that we're seeing. Who's taking up these spaces? Well, everybody's trying to move up the ladder to a better space. So all the transactions that have happened, a lot of them are consolidations where they want to consolidate their offices which are like more than 5, 7, 8, 10 years old into a newer building, a better building.
Regenerative.
Right, and that is helping them pitch back to their business, back to the employees that hey, we're building a new office,
Come back.
it is up to date with standards, these are the new things we are doing. On the other side, we had this client who's taken up some space in a building, and they wanted to take 2 floors, and they had a certain growth projection. Some of it was absolutely carved in stone, some of it was speculative, and they wanted to block space. This was the pre-COVID mentality that what, I'm going to grow, I definitely need space, I don't need a second office. What happened was we told them that the other floors in the building, few floors were empty and flex providers were taking up space. So they said, hey, you know what, this could be a good solution, that we take 1 floor, which is the floor that we need for the interim. The day we need to expand, we will take space from there. So nobody really knows the future, and nobody really wants to put the money on the table for that.
My issue is that the people are putting money, and from 16 million square feet in Bangalore, as you were saying, we are going to 25 million square feet in Bangalore now after COVID. But having said that, I think the holistic well-being kind of place, what you think is all come from designers, all come from the employees driving it because of their requirement. So let me ask you the last question. If I'm not able to get the office space out, then tell me, can I get 1 more day off from the week? Will 4 days a week will work now, or 3 days a week will work now? What do you think? So starting from Abhi.
Yeah, like the question before, I think it's very, very customizable based on the business they are in, based on the the project. A lot of Gen Z people, as you know, they're all project based. They are intense. They want to have clear chain of command. They are very pragmatic and they're project based. If someone is choosing a project for next 3 years or 3 months, 3 months, and that project team decides that okay, I'm going to do this like 4 days, 3 days a week, that may work well for them. But again, there's no one size fit for all. I think it will be very much depend upon the work they do.
So 4 days a week, 3 days a week.
I think a lot of companies, like now, right, are going 4 day a week. Microsoft has already announced that, right? So I honestly think, again, it's like what we earlier discussed, right? Choice. 4 days, 3 days, you pick. What's for your team?
Nivik, what do you think?
Performance based. It doesn't matter how many days a week. 3 sounds like a good number, but for me, if you're doing your job, irrespective of where you're doing it from, that counts.
What about you, Sai?
I will agree with Fancy because choice is what is driving right now the workplace, and yeah, that is what gonna make people look at it how they want to work
And that becomes probably a decision maker for the big resignation.
I'll tell you.
3 days, company being you say 4 days.
We
Where do I
change,
go?
we change this designs every time the technology evolves. So now we are just doing this because during the COVID only the most of the technology has evolved and people has gone beyond. I think we will never imagine that we could have done this.
It's actually very true. Fancy, if you were to draw a timeline over a few decades on how the workplace has changed, you'd probably see that every few years we've been in transition, right? So we're just in another transition.
Because like 30 years in the business, right? Man, we used to start with those cubicles which are like 7 feet high.
7 by 7.
And they all wanted 7 feet, they wanted to sit inside. And then, but where is the sun? Where is the light?
So we used to call it cubicle farms at that point of time, and that has become to open office. And let me just conclude this session. I think we have just overshot the time. So from cubicle farms to open office, now the wellness. Forget about sustainability and the LEED certification and all that. I'm not going there. So I was on a panel discussion with the global HR team, and what they were saying, and this is something which was eye-opener for me. The people now, the employees now, will not be employees. They will be mostly working as a consultant, detached to the offices, and they will go back to offices just like a fisherman's day. The fisherman goes to the beach, they get together, discuss where they're going, they go all out in the sea and work and come back and again touch base. And this was eye-opener for me that next 5 years we'll see a trend where the consultant will not be the derogatory word for an employee.
Yeah.
So this is what I'm thinking. Do all of you agree to that?
That's what we just spoke about. Choice.
Wonderful. Wonderful.
That's
So
what it is.
thank you very much.
Choice.
Such a wonderful discussion. I really enjoyed it, and such a wonderful thought. And yes, I believe the discussion what we had today is all about choices.
Choice.
Absolutely. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank
so
you very
much.
much.